Welcome back. This is the Now Morning Show. I'm Lisa, and I'm very delightful to do this interview this morning because it has to do with sign language, which I studied a long time ago, so I've forgotten a lot of it. And my guest this morning is Ian Danulal, who is the Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Association for the Hearing Impaired. And with him, who is also signing for him, is Dr. Paulson Skerritt, lecturer at the University of the West Indies in Sign Language. And he's going to be our interpreter this morning. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
And good morning. And how are you this morning? You're fine. Okay, good. Lovely. That's all I remember. I need to come back and do some sign language with you, Doctor, maybe. I don't know. So welcome to the show. So you will be doing the translating for us. And Ian is completely deaf. He's not partially deaf. He's completely.
Yes, I'm profoundly deaf.
Okay, so tell us about this award. Ian is the winner of the International Award from Gallaudet University. It's the Edward Minor Gallaudet Award. Tell us about how significant this award is, Doc, before we chat with Ian.
Okay, well, so that award is an international award given to persons who are involved in working with the deaf community, supporting deaf people both nationally and internationally.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time someone in the Caribbean, and of course Trinidad and Tobago, has won that award. So it's really
Congratulations.
It's a really fine achievement. Ian hasn't working, but I think I'd let him talk about that. I nominated him for the award because I've been working with him since 2007. And we started the first sign language corpus project to study the sign language of Trinidad and Tobago. And he has continued working, not just teaching sign language, working with the interpreting program at UE, but studying the sign languages of other countries, those sign languages that are endangered at the moment.
So just as we have different languages around the world, is it that we have different types of signing? I thought signing might have been universal.
Okay, I ask him to explain.
Yes.
So from my experience in Trinidad and Tobago, I've been studying the language here. And before that, most times people spoke American Sign Language, but I realized there's something called Trinidad and Tobago Sign Language. And we have our own signs for food or festivals. So I started working at UE. They're teaching sign language and doing some research as well with Dr. Braffett at the university. And then we've been going to other countries like Providence Island. And our reason for going there, we were trying to compare the sign language of Trinidad and Tobago and other islands in the Caribbean to see if it was the same. So I went to Bay Island just recently in Honduras. And I've met deaf people there, deaf and blind. There's whole deaf and blind communities there. The family has traditionally passed on the sign language, and they use that sign language. We wanted to see what was happening there. And they use tactile signing there to communicate. The entire community does that.
What is tactile signing?
What do you mean by tactile signing? Could you explain that? Well, let me give you an example. So if he was blind and deaf, this is how I would communicate with him. So we'd use the hands, and that's how deaf blind people communicate. They can't see or hear. So that's how it works.
And is this?
Yes, so that's tactile signing. Also, the deaf community, they all use, also deaf people have their own unique sign languages. And so at UE, for example, many people thought they would have a universal sign language, but that's not the case. Every country has its own sign language.
Did not know
Just
that.
as how we have different spoken languages like French and Spanish, it's the same thing with sign language.
So what are some of the differences that you would have found between Trinidad and Tobago, for example, and the United States in terms of the type of sign language?
Well, with ASL and TTSL, it's really very different. ASL, they use their signs that's unique to them. For example, in American Sign Language, that's good morning, but this is good morning in Trinidad and Tobago Sign Language.
Let's do that together.
Can we do it again, please?
Yes, good morning in America would be.
That's good.
Yes.
Morning.
But that's what I learned.
And that's what I learned before. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
but in Trinidad and Tobago Sign Language, it's good morning.
Okay, I did not learn that. So I'd imagine it's like learning English, where you would learn the standard English in school, but in the actual use of it in your own country, you make it your own. Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
that's good enough.
And is this the first time that this type of research has taken place in the world, for example?
Well, it's not the first time. They've had research. For example, when I was about 9 years old, I went to the United States. I went to school in the United States. And I was able to learn so much about, I met deaf people from all over the world, and I was able to learn so much. For example, I met deaf people from South America, and I saw that their signing was different. And I myself started learning about the various sign languages around. I learned about ASL. When I was about 9 years old, I started. And then I started my research, and I've realized that there's so many sign languages around the world. But the first time I went to the World Federation for the Deaf, just prior to that, I was involved with the Ministry of Social Development, and our goal was to try and have the first sign language dictionary of Trinidad and Tobago.
Wow.
And when we started working on that project and finished it, I decided as a deaf group, we wanted to set up an association for the deaf. So we wanted to get some connection with the World Federation for the Deaf, and they invited us to a conference, and we went to that conference. And I learned so much about the possibilities for the deaf, how we could show deaf leadership.
Yeah.
And we learned so much from that international organization. I made a lot of contacts and connections at that conference. So before that, a lot of people would refer to us as being hearing impaired. But we don't like that name because it follows a deficit model. We want to be called deaf. It's very negative when you say hearing impaired.
Really?
Yes.
And
deaf people want to be called deaf.
Well, Doc, this is an eye-opener for me because I was under the impression that deaf was the derogatory term and hearing impaired was the socially accepted or the politically correct term. So that's a learning this morning.
Yes. So that word deaf, it just means it's tied to our culture and language. And that's why it's the more acceptable term.
Okay.
So deaf people have their own culture and their own language.
Okay.
So people think when they hear hearing impaired that we're broken, something needs to be fixed, but there's nothing needing to be fixed about us. We have our hands and we can communicate. So that's more negative, but deaf is the more appropriate term.
Well, I have one more question to you, the big question, which is, how does it feel to win this award, and what does it mean to win the Edward Minor Gallaudet Award?
Well, I didn't know anything about it before. I wasn't aware I was going to win. I've just been continuing to work hard and support the deaf community, both in the Caribbean and in Trinidad and Tobago. And then Gallaudet University sent me an email, and they said, "Congratulations, you've won this award." And I was confused. What's up with this? So I was wondering what happened. Eventually, it was explained that I won this international award, and I was truly honored and excited about this. Got goosebumps when I found out. So the deaf community started congratulating me, and they talked about my work as an interpreter. I was the first deaf interpreter to be on national TV. That's one of the accomplishments that I've had. And they congratulated me for that. And they want to see the deaf community grow and develop.
Well, congratulations once again. And thank you so much for coming and sharing this wonderful news with us and the wider community. Dr. Paulson Skerritt, UE lecturer and sign language interpreter, as well
reading education, that's
and
fine.
Reading education.
Yeah, that's what I do at UE.
Yes. And Ian Danulal, Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Association for the Hearing Impaired. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Okay, so we go